heads from all the way in the back of the 4x4 and straight out of motherfucking Revenge. It's the good, the bad, and NerdGrows podcast.
I'm sorry. I told you I wouldn't do it again, but I listened to just a little bit of leftover crack this week, and it's tough. Leftover crack is hard to give up. I know a lot of you know that. Also, I really hope this isn't your first episode listening to this. You know, you think you're going to talk about cannabis and cannabis growing, and I'm over here ranting about crusty ska bands. It's a lot. I know. I'm sorry. But anyway, what's up, y'all? I'm sorry this week's episode's late. I got the stomach bug, and I was fucked for 24 hours straight. It was awful. I even tried to go to work, and then I went home after 3 hours and don't remember working. I didn't start feeling better until 6 o'clock at night when I finally smoked, and that settled my stomach and everything. But yeah, it was a rough day. And it sucked because I really wanted to record. I was really excited about this episode. Mostly the leftover crack intro, but we got some fun stuff to talk about today. So a follow-up to last episode. Good news, I am not going to run out. Your homeboy, friend of the show, the Grateful Gardener, came through with a motherfucking care package.
Friendly care package inbound.
Brought me some Alabrije. But yeah, shout out to Grateful Gardener for hooking me up. And that's something that's kind of surreal about growing cannabis and knowing people who grow cannabis. Because you think about back before, before growing cannabis was even an option. Remember how stingy people would be over a gram? and now we're just passing half ounces back and forth with each other and stuff. It's very surreal. Think about any other product. If you were oh hey, this product's normally expensive, but you're gonna get to the point where you can just give it away and people just give it to you. Even me with my first grow not getting a whole lot, I got shy of 3 ounces from each. I ended up giving a lot of it away. Also, like I said at last episode, I don't smoke a whole lot, but I have a friend that I only see once every couple of years. I just gave him a whole jar and a bunch of smoking accessories, a hemp wick, cones, a cone funnel, all of that. And it was just for his wedding and his birthday and Christmas, just all mashed together. I just threw a bunch of weed at him. So on top of that, I did get some rosin from Grateful Gardener as well. And as you know, getting my wife off of dispensary vape carts is the last step that we need in order to fully get our family off of the dispensary. Because I'm at the point where I can just smoke now indefinitely, unless I either stop growing or make a lot of terrible mistakes. So I actually took the rosin and I successfully turned it into a vape cart. I did as much research as I could before trying to do this, and it may just be beginner's luck that my first cart came out good. At least my wife says it's good, or at least comparable to what she gets from the dispensary. Now, I do know that you can temper rosin and just put it directly in the vape, kind of the same way you would temper chocolate. It does take a lot longer than tempering chocolate. I believe you put it in the oven at a low temp for 2 days or something like that. But I didn't want to run my oven that long. I had already purchased liquid terps when I bought the empty carts. So the basic strategy I used for making this cart was I heated the rosin in a candle wax warmer. Now, I didn't put the rosin directly where I put the candle wax. I mean, that'd be awesome though, right? Just the rosin smell. I mean, you get enough of that just from growing. But I took a paper towel and I got it damp and I folded it up to the size of where the wax goes and I put it in the wax warmer. And then I put the glass jar with the rosin in it on top of the paper towel. And I just let it sit there for a couple hours until the rosin started to break down and get runny. And then once I got it to that point, I opened up the top of the jar. I added in, since I didn't know the exact weight of the rosin in the jar, I eyeballed how much liquid terps to use. And I basically just added a few drops mixed, until you get the correct consistency. Just like if you're cooking, it's kind of like making vape carts is very similar to making a cashew stir fry. No, but I just kept adding liquid terps in until it got to the correct consistency. Like, I've vaped a lot in my life. I've also made nicotine liquid back in the day, back when I was vaping nicotine a lot, cloud chasing. My wife and I were really into that, like building our own coils and doing the cotton and the dripping and making our own liquid. And we had that whole thing down pat. It was cool. But then New York made Flavor E liquid illegal a couple of years ago, and then we stopped just due to lack of availability. That's actually when I started doing Zyn. I know Zyn's hot now, but I was an early adopter of them. Only because I couldn't get my supplies anymore, basically. But that's a tangent. So once I had the liquid terps and the rosin to a point where it was consistent enough, it actually came with the vape cart stuff I bought, is a blunt metal tipped syringe. So you heat up the syringe a little bit, the tip of it a little bit, so you don't get bubbles. And then, just pull it in the syringe, throw it into the cart, go for it. Give it a couple minutes to soak into the atomizer. Yeah, it's pretty good. It does have more of a rosin smell than dispensary carts do, but I'm assuming that dispensary carts are like ethanol extraction or some sort of butane, whatever they do. Some sort of solvent-based extraction where it probably strips a lot of the smell out, where this is literally just rosin and a thinner. But yeah, it came out well. So with that said, I finally pulled the trigger on buying a Nug Smasher Mini. Did some research this week. Shout out to the Grateful Gardener and Master Yoda for helping me make the decision and helping me do my research on that. And speaking of, if you do decide that you want a rosin press and you go with Nug Smasher, you can use the code word Master Yoda at checkout for a discount. And that really helps. That helped me a lot because with the high price point of a rosin press, like any percentage of discount is noticeable money off. So theoretically, I haven't actually gotten to the workflow yet, but theoretically, we should no longer need the dispensary. Mostly just because, like, now that I've been smoking homegrown, I like it way better. Also, something I've been thinking about a lot since I started growing, and it's something that I hear on other podcasts a lot too, is like the whole closing the loop on consumerism philosophy, which is something that I've had, a lot of my life. Like when you grow up in punk rock culture, a big overlooked part of punk rock culture is the DIY mentality, where you would rather make something instead of buy it, or you would rather barter for something instead of buy it. And that's something I've done my whole life. And now I'm at the point where I'm like, all right, can I get, especially with gardening, right? Can I get my weed? Can I get some of my food all within a closed circuit on my property? So I think this is a good first step of being fully off the dispensary. And then I already have plans in place for when it gets warmer out to grow a lot of food this summer. But yeah, for other updates this week, I've been hitting the reels hard. So I made a That 70s Show style reel with the Grateful Gardener, and that came out hilarious. And then a couple days ago, I made a little skit with Captain Autoflower from Cultivation Conversation, and that came out really funny. I think the best reels, maybe not the best performing as far as the algorithm goes, but my favorite reels at least are like, how when you're talking like with your friends and someone comes up with like a little funny comment and then someone stacks on it and stacks on it and stacks on it, and it's almost like, maybe it's just nerdy guys or something, but I feel like a lot of dudes my age, we have this almost like second language that kind of serves as like improv comedy, and it's just built into the conversation. Hopefully you know what I'm talking about. It's very hard to explain. It's a weird phenomena, but I think when that happens in your conversation, if you can find a way to isolate that joke and then make it visual or make it audio, I think those are the best jokes because they happened organically, and then you get to take that awesome organic joke and kind of use your creativity to bring it to life. I've always loved making reels, but especially silly reels like that. But other than that, not a whole lot to catch up on this week. Very busy, very sick. But yeah, let's talk about how my grow's going. So this morning, I harvested my purple pea from Alebrije. It looks like I'm going to get about an ounce, because just like the blueberry slushy, I stunted both of them at the same time because I was growing them the same way. The purple pea just took, 2 weeks longer to finish. I ended up getting a USB-C microscope so I can check the trichomes better. And when I just got it in the mail yesterday, and when I set it up and looked at the plant, I saw a bunch of amber, and yeah, that was that. My whole basement smells like chemicals and markers and weird stuff. It's very funky. I love it though. I got truck stop boner pills on day 10 in the city picker, which is awesome. I'm going to pick up another city picker tonight. I don't know if it's the same wherever you're listening from, but the Walmart by my house, which also is like an old school Walmart, like there's no produce or food in it. It's literally just department store, which is weird. All that, not a lot of those exist anymore. But they usually use the garden area for holiday stuff during the holidays. And today, or not today, but this week was the first week they flipped it back to garden, and they have city pickers on sale. So I'm like, all right. I was going to go yesterday, but I was sick. So I went, I'm going to go tonight, grab another city picker. I think I can fit 2 in the 2x4. So I'm going to do that. I'm not going to plan it for a while because I want to see how the lemon runts and the Compton Kool-Aid shake out. Because if I stunted those as well, which it looks like, I'll get to that in a minute, but it looks like I may have stunted the Compton Kool-Aid. If I stunted both of those as well, then I can just grow them both in the 2x2 to completion, and I can start the second earth box in the tent. However, I want to give it some more time to see how far they stretch, and then I'll make that decision. So with that said, the Compton Kool-Aid I'm growing for the Your Average Grow Night Owl Grow Along, it's on day 25, and it was just getting like bigger and bigger and bigger all week. But then this morning, when I went and looked at it, it had all the bud sites. It'll probably stretch more over the next week or so, but it's probably not going to be a very big plant. It's going to be bigger than the purple pea and the blue slush because it's already bigger than both of those plants. So I did make forward progress. It's all part of the journey of growing. It takes you gotta get some plants under your belt before you really start growing the monsters. So what I think is going on with the development of my grow style is I'm 100% sure I'm underwatering, because I'm at the point now where I've isolated almost every variable to where they're locked in, except for watering, and I'm still stunning plants. And if the choices come down to either underwatering or overwatering, just knowing myself, I'm probably underwatering just because I'm so afraid of overwatering. I also haven't been soaking the soil before I plant. I usually just put like a couple drops right in the middle. So I wonder if that's hindering root development, like during germination or during seedling stage. But we'll get there. That's really the best thing you can do, just from like a scientific standpoint, in my opinion at least, is if you're a new grower, locking down as many of those variables, even if they're not fully optimized, right? Because you'll have people say like, oh, don't do this because you could be doing something way better. But if the way better thing has more variability to it, like just stick to the consistent thing for now, because you can always develop and experiment further. So that's what I've been trying to do with my grow style is, I lock in the humidity, lock in, the VPD, the temperature. I switched over to organic, so I'm just like top dressing, which is a lot more simple than liquid newts, in my opinion. I'm switching over to city picker to hopefully help the watering problem. But yeah, just trying to lock in as much as you can, and then the few variables where you still have a lot of dynamics to it, that's where you can really, grind some experience. Speaking of grinding experience, that's a little foreshadowing, because we're going to talk about gamification of hobbies a little bit this week, but more on that in a bit. Lemon Runts is on day 14, and she exploded this week. No sign of like flowering or anything, but definitely went from seedling to veg this week because it was like big seedling, and then I woke up the next morning and it was just a full plant. It had like tripled in size overnight. So that one's going well. That one is also in Build a Soil Light Blend, where the Compton Kool-Aid is in Strawberry Fields. Both are great soils. Not that I'm blaming my my errors on the soil, but just another variable to keep in mind. And last but not least, Blueberry Slushy is on Cure Day 10. I got it in Grove Bag. Notice how that was singular, not plural. I got all 15 grams in Grove Bag, but it's smelling really good. I opened it a couple days ago. I did smoke one little joint of it just to see what it's like. It's very strong as far as effects go. It doesn't really taste like blue raspberry, but it 100% smells like blue raspberry. I actually went, while it was drying, I came downstairs and thought I had like left a candle on or something because it was so artificially blue ras smelling. But yeah, that's all that's going on in my grow this week. Nothing super crazy. Got a little harvest going. Got some plants and veg. My big accomplishment this week was making that vape cart. I'm very proud of myself for that. All right, before we get into this week's topic, I gotta tell you about this crazy dude I saw at Target. So I'm going through the baby aisle.
Hello, mic check. Am I in? God, this guy is so easy to hack. Hey, what's up, guys? Joe's NerdGrows here to remind you to wipe your damn phone camera lens off before taking photos of your plants. Get that blurry pic out of here. Have some good light. Get it in focus. Throw a piece of black construction paper behind it, and adjust the temp and tint on your phone to get the colors just right. Give your plants the photos they deserve. Now get back to work. Peace.
Abraham Lincoln's corpse. It was just nuts. I really don't know how else to explain it. Just what a crazy afternoon. So in general, I don't really like the phrase gamification when it comes to hobbies. You hear people be like, oh, gamify your workout experience. Or usually what that's referring to is having some sort of experience level up system or statistics system similar to the way a role-playing game works, either tabletop like Dungeons and Dragons or role-playing video games. I don't think you're making your hobby feel more like a video game. I think it's the opposite. I think video games are set up the way that hobbies are set up. So I think using the word gamification, it doesn't really give respect to the art of learning how to craft something or learning how to get good at something. It's not like Dungeons and Dragons invented blacksmithing. It's the person who made Dungeons and Dragons looked at how people build these skills in real life and tried to emulate it in the game through the use of statistics and numbers. It's not the other way around like a lot of people may have you believe. However, I think the through line in both directions is the same, and I think it's really important. And it's that whenever you learn a new craft or skill or hobby, or you try to make art in a new way, it involves learning skills, gaining experience, and harnessing or manipulating different variables, which comes into play a lot when growing cannabis. Not only do you have to learn all these different skills, like we spoke about a few episodes ago, but you have environmental controls, watering, feeding, harvesting, drying, curing, and those are all skills that you need to learn separately. The same way if you were playing a role-playing game and you have like a barbarian, you have to put some points in strength, some in stamina or vitality, whatever game you're playing. In my head, I'm playing Dark Souls in this example. You pick whatever game tickles your fancy. And in order to get these skills to where you want them, you need a lot of experience. And as a new grower, it's really hard to not get frustrated. You're not just going to go slay the dragon on your first go around. You got to go through, you got to beat all the dungeons, you got all the mini bosses, you got the world bosses, you have your crafting system, all of it. You have to build all of that up before you can really go and fight with the big boys. And that's not to say that people don't get frustrated playing video games. I think we all have seen rage compilations online. Personally, I'm not the kind of person that really gets upset with video games, but I also prefer to play very difficult video games. More on that later. but I kind of view building a new hobby or a new craft the same way, where, yeah, it sucks, but making a misstep or screwing something up, is no different than getting killed by a level 3 skeleton. Yeah, it sucks, but that's where we are in the game right now. And that's where we have to put our experience in right now. And yeah, with this very long, convoluted metaphor, if you're a new grower, just chill out. Keep learning, keep growing. You just need to grind up a couple levels of experience points. Or if you're like me, you can find a mentor that'll help you, and that's almost like the cannabis growing equivalent of power leveling. It's really good. I recommend it. Just watch out, there's less gamers. I originally wanted to call this episode Growing Isn't a Paint by Numbers, It's a Roguelike, but I thought that was too clunky. But that's really how I feel sometimes while learning how to grow, is that a lot of people make it out to be like, just do this, and do this, like you would for a paint by numbers. To me, it feels more like a roguelike dungeon crawler. If you're not familiar with what a roguelike is, it's a genre of video game. It's kind of hard to explain, but it typically involves going through a dungeon. So you go room to room, fighting stuff and collecting loot. When your character dies, you start all the way back at the beginning of the game, and then the whole dungeon randomizes itself, and then you start over. This is based on an old game called Rogue, hence why this subgenre of video gaming is called roguelike. There's also what a lot of people, I don't use this word, I just call them all roguelikes, but some people use roguelite. That usually refers to very stylized indie games that have roguelike mechanics, which honestly nowadays is what most people play when they play roguelikes anyways. Examples of this would be Enter the Gungeon, Slay the Spire, that's a roguelike card game, Binding of Isaac, Rogue Legacy. There's a lot of really good ones out there, and it's one of my favorite genres of video games to play. And that's kind of how I try to approach hobbies, is as if it were a roguelike. Because once you finish a plant, no matter how good or bad you did, you're starting over with a new seed, new genetics, possibly different alterations to the way you're going to grow this next one, how you're going to optimize your strategy. And every plant is different. So it's very similar to how the dungeon randomizes itself every time you play. And what makes roguelikes different from other video games is because of the randomization. It's not like you always just have a sword and you're going around and trying to beat people, or it's not like you're playing Call of Duty where there's always 8 guys in that room, and if you die the next time you play, there's still 8 guys in that room. The bullets are still in the corner, your armor pack is still over in this corner. With a roguelike, the next time you play, there's only 2 guys in the room, but there's no ammo. The next time you play, there's 12 guys in the room and there's 2 health packs instead of 1. But that's not really how roguelikes work. You have to just kind of take it as it comes, and you have to make the best and most optimized decisions as you're playing. A good example is, say you have a barrel that you can blow up because there's treasure in it, but also there is a hole in the wall that you can blow up to go into a secret tunnel, and you only have 1 bomb. You can move the barrel over next to the hole in the wall, drop 1 bomb, and blow them both up at once, thus saving yourself 1 bomb, the net outcome of saving 1 bomb. And when you play a lot of roguelikes, you kind of learn how to think this way once you get enough hours into this genre. And it was something I've been thinking about lately when it comes to growing cannabis, is that, so I have 4 different plants going now with 4 different genetics. They're all different. I'm at the point where I've pretty much standardized the feeding and the watering and all that, with the exception of I have 3 5-gallon pots and 1 city picker. But I'm not just sitting here with a to-do list of everything I'm going to do all the way through harvest. Every morning I wake up, it's almost like starting a new room of a dungeon, right? I wake up, I go check on my plants, I see what's happening, and then I make a decision on what I need to do today. Next morning I wake up, enter the next room, there's 2 skeletons. Enter the next room, there's 3 gelatinous cubes and a sword on the ground. And sometimes it's do nothing. Sometimes you walk into an empty room and you walk in and, hey, everything's good today. All right, cool. And yeah, sometimes you stunt a plant, or sometimes you have to kill a plant. Yeah, sometimes your character dies and you got to start from the beginning. And it's all randomized and it's all different. But you got to keep optimizing and making good decisions. All right, so since we're on the topic of roguelikes today, for the what I'm into this week section, I wanted to tell you about my favorite roguelike, which is called The Binding of Isaac. Now, I've been playing this game since, I don't think I played the original Flash game version, but I bought the original game when it came out on Steam, and then the expansion pack, and then they rebooted the game, then you had to buy the base game again. It was a fun time. But yeah, I've been playing this game for over 10 years. The Binding of Isaac is a game that, I don't know, it kind of makes fun of religion and superstition, mostly Christianity, but it does have like little jokes about other stuff in it. It also has like a lot of like 90s nostalgia and pop culture references built into it. Even though it's a roguelike dungeon crawler that you would typically, see in a fantasy setting, this is more of like I would call Binding of Isaac probably more of a comedy roguelike, which I think is a big part of what makes it very unique. So Isaac is a toddler. His mom, or at least he believes that his mom, who is super religious, is going to sacrifice him. So he hides in his basement from his mom. But when he goes down into the basement, it's filled with flies and poop monsters and demon monsters and dead baby monsters. And it's just all of these hilariously grotesque creatures. And the game's very cartoony looking, so it's like very funny to see these like happy little poops coming at you. All the sound effects in the game, everything just sounds wet. And it's just so gross, but in like a really funny way. It's not like trying to be like edgy or offensive or anything. It's just like very, very silly. You play as Isaac and you go through the different levels of his basement, and you can shoot people by crying on them. So you have like tear bullets that come out of your eyes. So you're just crying on everything, and you'll get items that can like upgrade your tears or upgrade your character in some way. And then you play until you either get to the end of the dungeon where you fight the boss. There's actually multiple levels of bosses you can fight your way through. And then when you die, you start over. The entire dungeon resets and randomizes itself, and then you go again. And I think there's like, if you count normal and hard mode as two different things, there's like 50 different ways to beat the game. And there's a lot of characters in the game. There's a lot of really good replayability because you're like, oh, I haven't beat the game this way with this character before. And every combination of beating the game with a specific character will unlock items for the dungeon, making the dungeon either harder or easier, but just giving more variation to the game. So this week I started a new file. My best file was on PC. I don't have that file anymore because I got a new PC. I guess I didn't have cloud storage turned on. But that was the furthest I had got when the newest expansion pack came out. I made it to the last boss. My computer couldn't handle the amount of like insane bullets I was shooting all at once. I was just filling the whole screen with tear bullets. So the game would crash when I was in the middle of fighting the very, very last boss in the game. So I also have it on Nintendo Switch. Last year, I got into another kick of playing this game and actually was able to beat the final boss in the game twice. And then I kind of put it down up until this week, where I got it on PS5 and I started a brand new file from scratch. I beat the game like 4 different ways with about 10 different characters at this point. Another cool thing about Binding of Isaac is that it kind of feels like a love letter to the original Legend of Zelda, like the way that a lot of the mechanics work and the way even like down to like the camera angle and the way that the rooms in the dungeon work is very similar to the original Legend of Zelda. So if you're a fan of that and you want, gross dead babies on top of it, like this is your game. But yeah, I haven't had a lot of free time this week. I've been very busy. Plus I was sick. I didn't have a whole lot of free entertainment time this week, but I did play some Binding of Isaac. All right. And I think that's going to do it for me this week. Teach yourself how to grow the same way you would progress through a role-playing game if you're a gamer. If you're into sports, think about it like fantasy football is basically Dungeons and Dragons. Hate to break it to y'all, but yeah, go out there, grind some experience, level up, and I'll see you next week. Peace.